We want to remind everyone we have social media exclusive content like our 2-minute drill as well as other video content. To find that, please make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok for more. We're kicking off episode 7 here of the Let's Be Frank video podcast. I am your host, Jason Duhe. Joining me shortly will be head coach Frank Monica. We got a loaded show tonight. We have LHSA previews and recaps. We have LSU Tulane Saints. We also have special guests, Brother Martin, head football coach Mark Bonis, and Coach Monica is going to talk about emphasis on special teams. But before we go any further, we want to go ahead and thank our title sponsor, Accardo and Duhe Law Firms, your go-to River Parish lawyers. On that note, we'll go ahead and bring on head coach Frank Monica. Coach, we're a little past midway point in the season with everything kind of locked and loaded into place. How much does power ratings now start to play into the way that we kind of look at teams and where they sit right now?
Right now, you look at the brackets because of the ruling that's already in place that we had last year. You got 2014 brackets or 2018 brackets on special and select side. So we're looking at a trend that started to develop. So if you, for instance, what I mean by that, if you're like number 3 right now, you're not going to move very, very much because district play is started and most teams are playing in districts right now. So that they will cancel out one another, the power rankings and the points that you achieve. So you're going to see right now a team is not going to move very much. You might jump one spot or fall one spot, but unless you really go on a slide or unless you really go on a run, you're not going to move very much. So really you can almost predict very, very close to what that bracket's going to look like way back in November.
Coach, your staff used to do a really good job of kind of predicting that. How difficult was it to actually kind of track it from your own standpoint when you don't have the official numbers in front of you?
Well, you more or less can predict who's going to win in the districts because the districts are really watered down. I mean, you have to have them, and I'm glad we do, but they're really watered down. You might have maybe one good team other than the Catholic League and maybe the North of the Lake, the 5A North of the Lake and St. Tammany and Tangipahoa Parish. You have a lot of districts that are very, very weak. What I mean by that, you just don't have 4 or 5 good teams in it. You have maybe 1 or 2 teams that compete for the district championship, which doesn't mean very much anymore. And but right now, you can almost predict who's going to be the winner of those, and you can almost predict your power ranking going forward.
Hey, Coach, we're going to go ahead and dive into our prep talk, where we're going to go ahead and look at some recaps from a week ago. In our first matchup, we had Brother Martin, who defeated Jesuit 15-3. Only scoring 1 offensive touchdown, but went into half after having 3 first-half turnovers. But, hey, held this Jesuit team to 54 total yards and got 2 safeties to boot. So, nice win for Brother Martin.
Yeah, no question. And Jesuit's defense really comes around. That quarterback is getting better. He had over 100 yards himself running the ball for Jesuit. But Brother Martin was just, I think they're well-rounded. They are a process team. They're a team that takes care of the football, and they do everything quite well. And they're not going to turn over the ball as much. It looks like Jesuit had those 2 bad snaps that went awry on them, and that kind of cost them. But that ball game is always a big crosstown rivalry.
6 sacks also for this Brother Martin defense. They are an extremely stout group, no doubt about it. In our next matchup, we had Rummel defeating John Curtis 27-21 in overtime. Coach, probably the surprise of the week. Because Curtis came off of a loss, the assumption is there's no chance they're going to lose again, especially a Rummel team that's supposedly down with all these massive injuries. They hold them to 21 points. That's not including that's including overtime. I mean, it's a fantastic job by this ball club to come out and play good football.
Yes, I think that it really showed some resiliency and some guts to stand there toe-to-toe with a real big physical John Curtis football team. And, Martin, that little running back, is just really he's a gamer. I just think he had over 100 yards, and the quarterback, Bogus, threw for a couple of touchdowns. I think that that's a big win for them. They needed that win, and maybe they can get some of these young guys that just got indoctrinated and had to be thrown to the fire. Maybe they'll get a little confidence and build from that. But that Catholic League is relentless, and also they play the Shrine. And for Curtis, it's been a long time. I think somebody said since 2020, since they've lost 2 in a row. But you never discount them. I mean, they'll be there at the end.
And to your point, Martin had 140 yards, 4 touchdowns, and Buggins was 14-15. Really impressive day for this guy in this ball club. In our next matchup, we had Covington taking on St. Paul's. St. Paul's was the 21-19 victor in that matchup. And you mentioned this is a big implication game for their district, and St. Paul's a very talented team and won this ball game, and it came down to a very tight plays at the end of the game.
I think, Jason, last week we discussed about the matchup. We were going to talk about how many were going to be close games. It came to fruition about how many were close. And this was a whole battle in the St. Tammany Parish. Both schools are within a mile of one another. And, there's a lot of give and take on both sides there. And St. Paul, they find a way with that good defense and had to stop the 2-point play. So big win for Coach Sears.
Yes, and as you mentioned, a big win for that ball club, and they're strong defense, always a strong defense. In our next matchup, Riverside took on St. Martin's, won 55-14. Coach, phenomenal day for running back Dedrick Lasky. Yeah, fantastic. 344 yards and 4 touchdowns on the day. Just a phenomenal job on his part.
Oh man, he's quick as a hiccup. I mean, he's a little bit tiny guy, but he's got a lot of moves, and that offensive line opened up some holes for him, got him to the perimeter. What is the first Coach Rousseau's team? I think was well prepared. I mean, I just don't think that St. Martin's have the alignment to line up against Riverside. That's proven 2 years in a row. Even though Barry is supposed to be one of the best backs in the country, but St. Martin's schedule is not nearly what Riverside was, and so we saw this. We talked about this. We saw not so much that we saw a blowout coming, but we saw that Riverside would have a decided advantage of this because they could. Coach Lashley does a great job with the Riverside defense, and Coach Dizer was the ex-coach at Riverside, so we knew that game was going to have a lot of implication. But I didn't think any way in the world that I could think that the St. Martin's could beat them. But credit to them. Like the little back was just one of the better backs in the state, and I think he's just a junior, so he's got another year.
He ran for that's Barry. He ran for 170 and a pair of touchdowns as well on the day. In our next matchup, we had Holy Cross defeating St. Aug. St. Aug was in the driver's seat for a lot of this game, despite the 55-30 loss. In the first half, they scored 18 points in the first quarter, and it looked like everything was going their way. But man, this offense of Holy Cross came out to play. Canatella, 11 of 19 for 253 yards and 6 touchdowns. It's an incredible day passing the football.
Yeah, he's quite an operator, and he's got some guys that can throw it to, and they big play team. They can throw short. They throw a lot of bubbles, but they also can go deep on you. The line gives them protection. They can score a lot of points. At St. Aug, I mean, they're just making some mistakes. So if they ever put it together, look out, because they have the talent there. But for the last couple of weeks, they've been bugged with a couple of turnovers and a couple of penalties here. But listen, they're still a dangerous football team and still to be reckoned with. They'll be there at the end.
Cross Johnson and Kobe Young are a really dynamic pair at the wide receiver position. Really helped him out. When you can toss a ball across the middle of the field and he can take it 70 yards like it's nothing. I mean, it's a scary ball club. In our next matchup, we had another overtime game. This time it was Newman taking on Bell Chase, a very physical defensive matchup. And Newman ended up pulling it out in the end. But, man, a very tight ball game from this Bell Chase team.
I think there were 2 overtimes in this ball game. Newman lost a good running back, and I don't know how long he's going to be out for. But that sort of made him play a little differently offensively. Had to throw the ball more to the receivers. But Bell Chase was very, very scrappy in this ball game. He had a chance to win it. And I think they brought the A game and knew that this would be a real close ball game for him. I think, talking to Coach Stewart this week, and he's kind of glad that he got into this kind of game because his kids need to see that and to get them ready for maybe postseason play.
Absolutely. And moving on to the next matchup, we had St. Charles taking on Abbeville and winning 51-0. Expected the Comets to win, but by this margin, pretty impressive because Abbeville was on a nice run themselves.
I was surprised that Abbeville actually won 4 games because the game just got out of hand before you know it. It was before halftime, and what killed them was their special teams. Especially, they couldn't snap the ball, they couldn't punt the ball, they couldn't kick it off, and so St. Charles took advantage of all those things, and which a good team will do. And they played on a very short field, and they got safety out of it, they got a good return out of it. And but St. Charles is a team that's got all 3 phases working for them right now. Really, I mean, they got On defense alone, I know these guys personally a little bit, but they got Foster on one side and Caden Combs won't be the fastest kid on the team, but Tooch is a secondary. I mean, Bosco in the middle and Kyle Cannon, the linebackers are super. Then on the offensive side, they have some playmakers. Brady St. Pierre still continues to play extremely, extremely well. The tight end, I mean, it's really a good player, and he's had Craigle. He's had a lot of big catches already, and Daniel Jolt outside. My grandson, Jackson Monica's doing well. And then their running back, Willis, has just been incredible all year long. He's hard to take down. Might be one of the better backs that St. Charles has ever had.
A really good ball club, and they'll continue to push forward as they try for yet another state title. In our next matchup, we had a rivalry game in Santa Maria taking on East Ascension. The series is now tied even, Coach, 22 apiece. This time it was Santa Maria coming up on the better end. East Ascension just has had trouble with their schedule, a very tough schedule, and Santa Maria's a really good ball club.
No question. Santa Maria, just the opposite of that you said, East Ascension is going through a juggernaut of a schedule, whereas Santa Maria has not. But yet, I think that says a lot for them because it can kind of save it and save their emotion. You heard me say this before. I think a team has maybe 3 or 4 big emotional games each year, and I don't think you can emotionally high every ball game. So Santa Maria hadn't had to get up for many ball games. This one they did. And East Ascension is still having problems scoring points. And if you ever get that offense straightened out, look out.
Another big thing to note is Caleb Ricks, 2 interceptions for Santa Maria, 1 for a touchdown. Nice game for him. In our final matchup, we had Salmon defeating Lakeshore 21-14. Coach, a tight matchup. Salmon just came up on the better end of it.
So we knew that was going to be a classic district matchup, and it's one of those districts that I was telling you about where these are the 2 best teams in the district. They basically playing for the district championship here, and after this, they both have a chance to run the table in their district. I do know that this game is always a barn burner, and it came down to the end. Lakeshore had a chance at the end to go ahead, but Salmon held on, and big win that could catapult both of them to a pretty high ranking in the power ranking too. And don't be surprised they can face one another again.
And we're going to go ahead and move on to our preview segment. Coach, this might be the biggest matchup of the entire state this week. Turlings Catholic taking on Lafayette Christian. Lafayette Christian, everybody talks about Jawan Johnson. I think it's going to be a big game for this defensive front. They're going to have to make Preston Welsh of Turlings Catholic feel uncomfortable, but we know they can put up points. They have a lot of weapons on offense, but I think it's going to come down to, can the defensive backs of Turlings Catholic and the linebackers limit Johnson, and can they contain these wide receivers?
Yeah, earlier in the year, I had an opportunity to see Turlings. I think that you said it right. They're excellent on offense. I don't know if their defense can hold up with LCA. It's going to be a matter of them, how many times they can create a turnover here or there. So LCA takes care of the football. It's going to be a long night for Turlings. But on the flip side, Turlings is very, very explosive. I would love to see this ball game because it's going to be the over and under of this ball game is going to be about 60.
Big matchup is going to be Peyton Jones on the defensive side for Turlings, who has 4.5 speed, and Trey Gorgon from that other side of the ball. It's going to be a fascinating matchup. In our next game, we have Curtis taking on Acadiana. Curtis comes in at 3-2, which is unlike them, having dropped 2 in a row, as you mentioned, first time since 2020. And they're taking on Acadiana, an 11-7 matchup in the power ratings. Curtis has so many weapons. They passed for 250 yards despite having that veer offense just a week ago. We know they can light it up through the air, and Acadiana's going to have to be prepared for that. No question. I think again that they're playing at the Shrine, so that's going to give Curtis a little advantage here. And Curtis, they'll be prepared. I mean, they'll be prepared. I'm sure that their practice sessions this week have been all focused about one game and trying to stop Acadiana. It's really unique how they both have similar offenses and how they both kind of come off the football, and they spend a lot of time with their offensive line on that veer. But Curtis is able to throw the ball better. And I know Acadiana's got this all-world free safety, but they can throw the ball a little bit better than I think Acadiana can. And so this ball game might be over it starts at 7, it might be over by 7:30 because both of them are run-oriented. Dominic McKinley is going to have to play a big role for this Acadiana defense, big defensive lineman. But I'm going to tell you, Coach, I think one of the keys is going to be Tyler Mitchell for this Curtis offense. Wide receiver, everybody talks about Michael Turner, but Mitchell has every ounce of ability as well. Next matchup, Shaw takes on Bell Chase. Shaw is 4-2. They've won out since their first two matchups. Bell Chase sits at 12 in the non-select side of Division I power rating. Mason Wilson has done a great job at quarterback for this Shaw offense. I think a lot of it goes through him and what he's been able to bring to the table. And Bell Chase's defense is going to have to find a way to limit him along with those playmaking ability that they have on the outside of wide receiver.
And he is the quarterback for Shaw has actually had a great year throwing the ball. And even though early in the year he was not as accurate as he's been lately, but he's real thick player. It's hard to take down. And this is a kind of a real big rivalry too. They're not far from one another. They're in the same district, so this could be a real war. Bell Chase has a lot of quickness, so and Coach Myers will make sure that they run the football, and Shaw's going to have to stop the run. But I know Coach Tierney, he's the old battle-tested guy, so he's going to have his guys ready to play because when they look at that district, this is probably the matchup. And as we said about other district games, this is for the district championship. They will probably both run the table after this ball game.
And I was a part of this rivalry way back when I first started calling games. It's a very intense matchup, as you mentioned. Both teams, they want to win this game, that's for sure. In our next matchup, we have Carr taking on Jesuit. Coach, we know the Carr has a lot of playmakers. John Johnson has done a phenomenal job operating this offense. Jesuit's defense has played really strong, but they've got to get it rolling offensively. 54 yards against Brother Martin, and they've got to find a way to move the football.
I think what Jesuit would probably do against a real talented, because Carr is a big play offense. I think Jesuit's going to try to control that tempo and try to build up some first downs and keep the ball away. That's the best defense in the world is your offense, is to keep them off the field. But Carr's going to, you hope that maybe you get this game to the fourth quarter and maybe cause them to panic a little bit. But Carr's been they've been there so many times. I don't think they'll panic. They know what they have to do. They still have all the talent in the world. They have a number of blue chippers on that football team. Even the sophomore guys, or they have some blue chippers. But Jesuit will be in position. Now, being in position is one thing. Can they still make the play even though they're in position against a real good athletic football team? But look for it to be a little bit closer to what people think, though.
What I did see on film is I got to watch Jesuit tape against St. Aug. They established their run really well in that game in the early point, as you mentioned. That's going to have to be their tactic here. You've got to establish the run early, but you also got to watch out for Taj Butler, 4'6", at linebacker, big playmaker.
And Coach Manella will put two linemen in the backfield to lead the runs too. So he might be playing out there with 8 offensive linemen and maybe a couple of cheerleaders.
In our next matchup, we have St. Charles taking on St. Martinville. Coach, we know that this is a big game for St. Charles because they feel like they owe some payback after St. Martinville came to Laplace, which doesn't happen often for many teams, and defeated them just a year ago. We know the ability that St. Charles has. A guy we haven't talked about as much, maybe, even though we've said a lot of these guys' name. Brandon Craggle at tight end has been a big playmaker and a consistent playmaker on the outside for quarterback St. Pierre. Oh,
no question. Craigle's done a phenomenal job. Plus, the run after the catch is what most coaches say. Okay, it's not the catch; it's the run after the catch, and he's done a phenomenal job of actually working the middle of the field. And that's what a tight end normally does because safeties don't like to tackle a big guy. But yeah, St. Martinville defeated them last year, so I think that St. Charles, they will have their attention even though they go on the road. St. Martinville they have 4 wins. They're not the team they were last year, but they still have some dudes. So you always have to respect a team like that that's got some playmakers because it doesn't take much. If you're not prepared, it doesn't take much for them for all of a sudden to get with people called ambush. I don't think it's an ambush game because I think that St. Charles is a well-rounded football team, but you never can tell. You just hope you come out of this thing without any injuries and with a W.
All-state running back for St. Martinville, Steven Blanco, will try to have a big game, but we know that this is an experienced defensive front with Matthew Loop and the gang for St. Charles. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. In our next game, we have St. Aug taking on Rummel. Rummel, it seems like a story of 2 teams going in opposite directions, Coach. St. Aug has all the ability in the world, just has not been able to put it together. And Rummel has seemingly been injured to no end and still finds a way to pull off one of the biggest upsets, maybe the entire season, against Curtis last week. What do you see in this matchup?
Yeah, I think Coach Monaco over there is a little concerned because St. Aug is so talented. And the concern is if they play their best ball game, I mean, it's hard to defeat them when you get the people that's got that kind of talent. and when they take care of the football. But they've sort of lost their way a little bit last week and lost their focus after jumping off the big league. So, whenever you prepare for a team, you always have to prepare for their best effort. You just can't say, well, if they're going to do this, you have to prepare for their best effort because you never know that's going to happen. And so St. Aug is still a dangerous football team, still one of the better teams in the Catholic League. And Rumble's still trying to get those young guys up to snuff where they'll be competitive. But this could be a real big momentum game for Rumble if they can pull this one off.
And St. Aug has a lot of receivers on the outside that can do some damage. But, man, their front seven coach, one of the best in the state, led by Jakeem Stewart. He's a sophomore. I've said his name a bunch, but I watched him play, and he lived in Holy Cross's backfield a week ago. But I want to go back to a point that you made that I think is so important, and I can speak to this as a former player. You said you have to prepare for a team's best effort. And one thing I remembered you doing is there's certain games that stand out, but there was one in particular, it was Bruley. And they had one series, and you said, don't look at their record. You kept repeating that. You said, don't look at their record, watch this series. And you played that one series every day. Every day during film, you said, watch what they can do. And I think you always did a great job of preparing for a team's best effort, making sure your team saw the potential of what a team can do. Why is that so important for your team to understand what they're lined up against?
The most important thing is getting your team's attention. And because a lot of times they can lose focus, they listen to voices, they listen to the media, or the media is putting teams together in the state championship already. The media can make parents think differently, and the parents it might be the cheerleaders where the kids walk around the hall and somebody's talking. A cheerleader said, "Well, y'all got an easy game this week." Well, where did that cheerleader get it from? She got it from home. She got it from something that she read, or somebody said that in the class. One of her peers in the class said that. So that mindset, you have to offset that mindset and get your kids focused on the game itself. It's up to the players to play the game, and the fans and the media. They're there to cheer, and they're there to support you. And because you can, that distraction can come from a lot of different places. Sometimes it can come from the faculty. Sometimes it can come from another team or a voice from the outside. But especially the friends of theirs that they run into, and people that keep up with the game a lot. Sometimes they'll say, well, and they look at records, and they don't care about who you played. They don't look at that, but they look at records and say, well, you should win this game decisively. But yet that gets into the mindset of those guys, so they fail to prepare as well. And remember, I said this: every game has a different emotional level to play. Every game is different. You're not going to play the same way 2 weeks in a row. So it was always my job to make sure that we kept their focus and kept them intrigued. And it might be a different practice schedule, just to do something to get their attention.
You're absolutely right, Coach. And the media has a lot to do with that. Hey, so who you got for the state titles this year? You want to make some coaches? Some coaches? So look, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at some local college matchups this week. Tulane takes on Memphis. We spoke with Coach just a week ago, and we know that you mentioned it as well. You alluded to it. They have not played great at Memphis. So with that kind of taken in mind, what's it going to take for Tulane to go on the road focused on a Friday night game, which is maybe throwing off their schedule a bit, even though they did have a bye week? What do they have to do in order to accomplish their goal of winning this ball game?
Well, I think that at the number one, everybody's going to stress the importance of taking care of the ball, which means eliminate some of the penalties. I think the last couple of ball games, the last game especially, Tulane made some uncommon errors in terms of penalties. They had a couple of turnovers, so I know this timing of this game came at a perfect time because they're going to work on that. They're going to work on their ball security, and they also found a back in the last ball game, back that carried the ball over 100 yards, and I think you're going to see more of him. I think it's going to be more of a running game for Tulane, but it's going to give Coach Fritz, and I'll give if you give Coach Fritz 2 weeks to prepare for a team, he's going to have them ready. And so I know Memphis is a good football team. Hopefully the winner of this game is really, really going to have a leg up on that championship in the American Conference. And so it's going to be a war out there when you go on the road. And, of course, Memphis has to look at it, too, the same way. So it's going to be a very interesting game. Unfortunately, it's going to be on a Friday night where a lot of us won't be able to view it.
It is unfortunate, but again, you can always tape it, DVR it. They got a lot of ways you can catch back up on it, like I had to do this week with the LSU matchup. And LSU ended up defeating Missouri 49-39. I was calling the Holy Cross game and trying to keep tabs. I had to end up watching the game later, but a few takeaways from this game, Coach, are LSU's defense woke up in the second half, but they still have a lot of ways to go. Jaden Daniels played phenomenal football despite having a bum wheel. Probably should be steadily in the category for Heisman contention, but due to their 2 losses is maybe going to unjustly be slipping out. But this offense, it feels like you're on the edge of your seat every time you watch this offense, Coach, because you have to score. You have to outpace the other team, and that's a very dangerous way to play football.
That's not a very good formula for a lot of success. You might have some moderate success, but it's not a good formula, I think, because defense wins championships. And, I still believe that. Just think, where would this team be without Daniels? I mean, it's just amazing. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but their special teams are atrocious. I mean, they've not gotten any better with their special teams. And there was an incident in this ball game where they had them backed up. And Missouri punched the ball, and they get an 82-yard punt because the punt returner didn't field it, and the ball bounced. And so they go from inside the 15, minus 15, and all of a sudden now they're on the -8, their own 8-yard line. And so Daniels had to lead them on a 92-yard drive to take the lead in the ball game. But I mean, their tackling is not where it needs to be. Their run fits are not where they need to be. And in terms of that, I really don't know. And but Mason Smith finally he batted the ball down. So I mean, so I guess that's a plus right there. But to have a team like this that's so inept on defense is kind of scary.
In the next game that they're going to play is going to be Auburn. That's at home after playing 2 weeks consecutive on the road. Auburn is a scary team because under Hugh Freeze, every time they've had one really big upset. Now, I don't know how much this would be considered an upset because of the ups and downs of LSU season, but this is a scary Auburn team. You know that they have some great coaching. Hugh Freeze is one of the best offensive minds in the country, and maybe he's gotten forgot about because he was at Liberty. But this is not a gimme win for LSU, and this is going to be a tough matchup with this Tigers team from Auburn coming in to try and kick your mouth in.
I think put it this way, they're a better team than Arkansas. They're more well-rounded. I think the only thing they don't have, I don't feel that their quarterback's a run threat. He throws the ball pretty good. He's gotten a little bit better, but they played Georgia off their feet, and their defense can slow down LSU's offense. And if that happens, it could be a tough night in Tiger Stadium. But I agree with you. Hugh Freeze does a real good job. They will take care of the football. They have personnel too, and I think the spread is a little bit more of a generous spread for LSU because, especially said, if you can't play defense, I think anything more than 3 points is a generous spread.
So we'll go ahead and take a look at the Saints as we go ahead and move on to our next segment. Coach, 34-0. Maybe not the best Patriots team that they've had recently, but you have to be pleased with all phases of the game and a win like that.
Oh, I was so tickled for Coach Carmichael. And how about Granderson? All of a sudden, Granderson, his light comes on. And, I mean, that poor left tackle for New England, and he threw more no-hitters than Nolan Ryan. I mean, so he was all over the field. And the credit to the defense. The Saints defense is really good. Mario Davis in the middle, and got Jordan on the outside. I mean, Werner inside. I mean, they got some great corners with a lot of more. So, I mean, they got playmakers on defense, and I really love their special teams too. And I really watch them. Their special teams are well drilled, well coached, and I just hope they can put something together, continue to go. Carr's got a smoothest delivery. Sometimes his arm is not as quick as I like to see it, but he's got the real smooth delivery. Throws a nice, easy, soft pass to catch. So, and it looks like he's a heck of a leader. So you can't help it but want them to have some success, especially see Kamara with the ball under his hands a little bit more. And I think that Coach Carmichael did a great job of using Tyson Hill. The way they used him, they moved him around. They actually threw some passes there so they couldn't gang up on the line of scrimmage, thinking it would be a wildcat guy. So and then the shovel pass, that was pretty unique play too. And I know Justin, our producer, really liked that.
So next matchup, they take on Houston, another young quarterback. Defense going to have to take advantage of that opportunity against Stroud. And I know he's coming along, but again, young quarterback, you got to go win that game.
Exactly. I mean, so we need to get on a roll here, and I think Coach Allen knows that, and I think that the NFL, as we said this many times on this program, man, they're all getting paid. I mean, when you get a W in the NFL, you cherish it, no matter who's against it, because they're all pros. And so, and every week is different. As we talk about that mentality, playing at home, playing on the road, all that matters.
Absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Every team is good. Every team has athletes. If it wasn't the case, there would be a lot more winless teams that have happened in the NFL. There's a reason why it has such stigma, because it's very hard to not win a game, no matter how quote unquote bad of a team you have, as you mentioned, when everybody's getting paid. We're going to head to our first break, and we want to go ahead and remind you that the Let's Be Frank Video Podcast title sponsor is Accardo and Dufresne Law Firms. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Keep it locked in. You're watching on Varsity Sports Now. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern cane, pure cane sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
Welcome back from the break. We're about to welcome in our special guest. He is the head coach of the Brother Martin Crusaders, and he led his team last season to a trip to the state title game against John Curtis. And let's go ahead and bring in head coach Mark Bonis. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. And you have to be pleased with the way your defense is playing. Gave up 54 yards a week ago to Jesuit. Can you walk us through what's making your defense click so well at this point in the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's for our defensive staff, they've been together for so long. I think it's it's a system that Coach Leday brought to us years ago, and then once Coach Leday got out and getting a private business, our coaching staff has really stayed with that. We stay in constant communication with him, and our kids have bought in and continue to buy in. And so it's just the plan in place and defense in place. And, I guess when you have success from year to year, it's easy for your kids to buy in. We were concerned about losing so many great players, from the defense last year. And obviously, early on, you're waiting to see how your guys develop. And but so far up to this point, they've done a great job in all the games that we've played. And, like I said, I mean, it's a lot of new faces, so we're excited. How they played up to this point. We're excited, how they continue to mature and grow as the season goes.
Coach Bonis, for many years, a lot of people don't like Frank Monaco, but I don't know anybody in the coaching profession that doesn't like Coach Mark Bonis. You're one of the great guys and great people in the profession itself, and always had a lot of class, handled yourself well. Your teams actually show your personality, which is character and discipline at all times. So your teams have been a pleasure to watch. I know you guys made it to the state championship last year and made a heck of a run there. But Coach, tell us a little bit. Tell our viewing audience a little bit about your coaching background and your family. Where did you start coaching and your family? How many years you been in it?
Yeah, Coach, I've been coaching since probably 2001. I started at Sam Houston State. First of all, I played high school football in the Catholic League. I'll just say this on Carrollton and Banks. Don't want to name the school, but no,
Yeah.
Graduated in 1997 from Jesuit High School. From there, was blessed to go play for Jeff Bauer at Southern Miss. And I'll tell you this: my high school experience was a great one at Jesuit, but under Mark Sonji. So I credit him and his staff for having me want to become a coach and to do what I do today. And then, like I said, I was blessed to play at Southern Miss under Jeff Bauer, who did such a great job. The one thing I noticed as a player for him was the fact of how he wanted everything around him to be family oriented. And then as things have it, I thought I was going to have a job back at Southern. From there, I went to Sam Houston State, coached tight ends there, and thought that I was going to have, after that, I thought I was going to have a job at Southern Miss and wound up falling through. And then things happened for a reason. And from there, after I had left Sam Houston State thinking I was going to have a job at Southern Miss, I was blessed to be able to coach alongside of Scott Bain's father. And man, that was great being with Scott, Brian Bain's father, Jeff Wooten, Tom Aliff, and then under the direction of Joey Latino, our athletic director. Was there for three years, and I can tell you this: being a part of that Shaw community, man, it was a blessing. Great kids, hardworking kids, and it was three some of the best years of my life. And I had the opportunity then at that point to have a promotion as full-time offensive coordinator over at Brother Martin under Jay Pittman, and was with him there for 3 years. And Coach Pittman left for private business. And Brother Martin, I was blessed, and they asked me to be the head coach. So that's kind of been the short version of my coaching career. But man, I've along the way, I appreciate the nice things that you said, Coach, about me. But I've been really blessed to be surrounded by great coaches, and I've learned so much, from those guys. And there's not a day that goes by that that I'm not thankful for the amount of time they've spent with me and the growth that they've helped me. How I've grown as a coach because of them.
Right, Coach. I know that we all did. We chased our star, and at one time you chased a college job. And you came back to us, and I'm really glad you did. And what led into your decision there,
Coach? Yeah, it was 4 or 5 day deal. So at first, when I finished at Southern Miss, I was a student assistant there, and then like I said, I started at Sam Houston State, and it was at that point the game was different. You're looking at 2001, 2002. And the game was, obviously recruiting's involved, but there was a lot more X's and O's involved. That's what I really love, part of the game. And then kind of came home, like I said, thinking I was going to have a job at Southern Miss, and things fell through. So there was always that part of me that wanted to get back into college. And I believe it was 2016, I had the opportunity to go to Memphis with Mike Norvell, great coach. Obviously did a great job at Memphis and is doing great things at Florida State. But honestly, Coach, for me, we couldn't get things to work out. It was a timing issue. Couldn't get things to work out with family. My twins had just, were relatively young. And, for me, I'm very active in my family's, I want to be very active in my children's lives. And that was, when I sat there and kind of evaluated things with recruiting and what was expected and thought and a pretty quick study. I was able to see, hey, what would be acceptable, what would not, and if I would be able to sit there and be the father figure that I really wanted to be in my family's lives. It just was not the right time, especially with them being 4 years old. I'm indebted to Mike for giving me that opportunity. But like I said, it wasn't the right time. And people ask me to this day, you could be at Florida State right now, possibly those guys making a lot of money and things. Look, I don't regret that decision one bit. It was the best thing for myself and best thing, for my family.
Yeah, and Coach, you're talking to someone that lived it. I know, and
Yep.
I chased my star, but I also know that it's nothing like high school football. I mean,
Right.
It's totally different, and all that glitters is not gold. Other than the 3 or 4 hours on the Saturday afternoon, people don't realize behind the scenes that's an awful lot of work. I mean,
Yep.
They actually own you. So I understand. I understand your legacy, and we benefited just by you coming back, and so you can know that, Coach. Can you tell us a little bit about one of the big games that you guys might have played, that you guys won, and that really stands out in your mind, or maybe one or two?
Yeah, I mean, the one that really stands out is 2014. We had look, just to be honest, I mean, the 2 years prior to, we were not a very good football team. Like I took over as a head coach in 2009. We had some success, for a couple of years, and then we had 2 really bad years, 2012, 2013. And it was a rebuilding process. We knew that we were very young, but we really, it was a process, really building from the ground up. And we decided we wanted to schedule hard for that scheduling period. We knew that we would start freshmen and sophomores, and we would have growing pains. But we knew by year 3 we had a chance to be pretty successful, to compete for a championship. And you know how it is in the nature of the business. Within that time, there's a lot of grumblings, and I'll be honest with you, going into that 2014 season, there was question whether or not I was going to be brought back or retained as head coach, at Brother Martin. And, thank goodness, thank God every day, the higher powers that I was retained. And in 2014, we had, it was a special year. That, as a matter of fact, that team in 2014 still is the backdrop of my iPad, because that team really laid the foundation for where we are right now. 6 of the last 9 years, I believe, we've been to the semifinals. Last year, obviously, we make a trip to the state championship. But a game in that year, we played the quarterfinals. We wound up playing Catholic of Baton Rouge, and it was a battle. At the end of the game, we knew the time's about to run out, and we're about to walk away with the victory. And one of our players gets a cramp. And so instead of the clock running out, Catholic doesn't have any more timeouts left. The player goes down, cramps up, so it gives Catholic time to get organized, and we know what they're going to run. We practiced it all week. They were going to run the hitch and pitch that they ran earlier in the year. We knew it was coming. We thought we had the guy down. He winds up making a great play, scores a touchdown, and they have to go for 2 in order to tie the game and send it to overtime. So the first 2-point conversion, they call us for pass interference down in Baton Rouge, and so then they move it halfway, half the distance to the goal. And on the next play, Rod Teamer met Darius Geis, in the A or B gap, and stuffs it. We wound up winning 26-24, which allowed us to advance, to the semifinal round. And that's the first time that Brother Martin hadn't been past the quarterfinals since '94. So you look at that 2014, that kind of set the tone and laid the foundation for where we are now. And so once again, forever indebted to that group of men, those families that really bought in and believed what we preached. It wasn't easy. We knew it wasn't going to be easy, that 3-year process, but it was definitely, it was a great run. And that season was a great season, and like I said, that group has a special place in my heart.
Coach, I got a tail topper with that one. We were playing one time in a semifinal ball game, 11 seconds to go. The other team didn't have any timeouts, and we tackled a guy inbounds. The clock was running out, and they couldn't even get lined up. They were only on minus 35-yard line. But my player thinks the game is over. He takes the ball and thinks, I got the game ball. And he's walking off the field with the game ball. And the official said, give us the ball, son. And he didn't. So they flagged him for delay of game. It gave them a chance to run a reverse to the fastest kid in the state. And we ended up tackling him on the 4-yard line. And we're only up by 4. So,
wow.
So we know, and that sent us to the state final. So we all have a story like that. Coach, I brought up last year on this podcast, I talked about the district that you guys play in the Catholic League. And, because of my son being in the Catholic League also, I'm very, very close to you guys. And and watch that Catholic League very, very closely. It's just a brutal, brutal district. And I've always said, I would like to see the Catholic League either divided up so it wouldn't be such a grind to you guys and something like that. I know that the traditionalists go crazy when you say this because everybody identifies in New Orleans on the school that they graduated from and not the college. Yes, though, but I do think it's because of the playoff structure, you guys kill one another. By the time you get in the playoffs, you really don't have much gas in your tank.
Yeah, man. I think what's got to happen really is hopefully, come January, there's some resolution. I'm very happy with how everything sorted itself out. Obviously, last year having more teams in the playoff bracket, it was great. I'm happy that it's like that as opposed to having 11 teams in a playoff system. What I didn't like in the 11-team playoff system is that you had everybody in the Catholic League and you had 4 or 5 other teams outside the Catholic League who would always, have a top 3 or 4, top 3 seed because everybody, besides the Catholic League team who won it, everybody else was kind of beating one another out, So it wasn't a really great system with the 11-team, the 11-team bracket. I'm just happy right now that it's how it was last year. As for breaking up the Catholic League, I'm a traditionalist. I love the Catholic League. If it can, I would love for everybody to come back together. No more split. At the end of this year, and at that point, I think for me, then that whole dividing up the Catholic League's a moot point. I do. Man, I would hate it, even though it's a grind, and you sit there and look. Next week, I'm gonna regret saying this because we'll be playing Nick and we'll be playing Rummel, and I'll sit there and say, man, I sure wish we had a New Orleans, some other team besides Rummel in the district. But I would miss week in, week out playing, Jesuit, Holy Cross, Rummel. It's I can tell you this, it's one of those reasons, like I told you, with Coach Sanji and his staff, them getting me in this, but it's also those experiences of being in the Catholic League and playing the Catholic League. For me, that's made it so special.
No question.
So I get both sides. I get both sides. But I'm a traditionalist. I do love, the Catholic League. I would agree with you if we were back to 11-team playoff bracket, but that's the big thing now that, you have more teams that are defined as select. I'm fine. I'm great with it just, because it's, like I said, I am a true traditionalist when it comes to the league.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was part of that for a while, too. You also made it tougher because now you got Carr and John Curtis in there. So it's actually gotten a lot tougher.
Yes.
Coach, just a little bit.
Yeah, listen, I'm okay if they take those guys out, right? No, I'm joking. Look, the addition of those 2 teams, we do this, and I'll say this, we do this because you want to play the best. And look, I know this, Coach, how you coach. I mean, you're a legend. You're very process oriented. We are very process oriented. So we want to play the best. We know this. The goal, you want to win a district championship, but at the end, you want to be playing your very best football at the end of the season, going into the playoffs. So to me, it's been great with the addition of Curtis. It's been great with the addition of Carr. So it's it's a great league.
There's not a bad game.
Every game, it's a battle.
That's right. It's not a bad game because the people that have never coached in it's really, really difficult because you might play on a Friday this week and then on a Saturday. You guys play on so many different venues. One time it's at Yandy, one time it's that Ted Gormley. Now they got the Shrine game and plus the road games you guys have to travel to just to make a schedule. So yes. And the pre-district schedule too. I haven't alluded to that, but because of the fact that you got the tough district schedule, your pre-district schedule's got to be tough too, because not many people actually are picking up the phone and calling you.
Well, this is what I'll tell you. You'll laugh at this. So 2 years ago, when it was time for scheduling, you had 11-team bracket, right? And you knew you were going to the playoffs, right? So we sit there and say, well, hey, this is how we've done it. We're going to schedule as difficult as possible. Not that you want to, have a bad record going into the playoffs, but it doesn't matter. It's really pool play getting ready for the bracket. So we schedule, week 1, Madison Prep, week 2, St. Paul's, week 3, St. Thomas More, week 4, Ouachita, and then Carr comes into the league. So we're saying we're going to be battle tested when it comes to the playoffs. And then last year, week 2, we find out, well, that may not be how the playoffs are set up. You're gonna have to sit there and earn your way in. And we're like, oh, this may not have been the best thing, we were blessed. I mean, it wanted to work out for us. But that's how we scheduled the way we did, you're sitting there and the rules of the game, and you're sitting there trying to make trying to take advantage of the rules of the game and put
right.
the best position. Like I said, we found that out, right before the season. Hey, you're not going to find out till week 2 or 3 how the playoffs are set up, So, like I'm saying, I really hope come January everything gets itself sorted out. I'm hoping that everybody's back. So we'll see. It's always interesting. It really is, Coach.
Oh, I know it. We've been a minute of those, Coach. Last not least, not to hold you, but the rule changes, Coach, in football and high school football. And one of my pet peeves, you heard me talk about this. I brought it up several times about the hash marks. I would love to see high school bring the hash marks in the 20 yards just like they are in college, because a kid makes the transition from high school to college. They're the same. And a lot of people don't know that the hashes are different between high school, college, and the pros. And we're asking a 16-year-old kicker to kick from a severe angle when the ball is inside the 10-yard line. Are there any rules out there that you would like to see? I'm glad to see quarterbacks allowed to throw the ball out of bounds, or anything in the LHSA rules that we use, because we're the only team, I think, the state that actually uses. Texas is the only one that uses NCAA. Everybody else uses federation rules. Is there anything that kind of bothers you about our rules?
I think this. The thing that I kind of question is that we're concerned about. You're concerned about concussions and concussion protocol, and then a lot of times you'll have backs, running backs that are undersized, but you're asking them to take on linebackers. Sometimes big defensive linemen, whatever it may be. I've always thought this is that I know we're concerned about injuries with knees, et cetera, but I actually think chopping from a tailback standpoint on some of those guys should be, would go along with what we're trying to do in trying to implement concussion protocol and trying to prevent concussions. That's something that's always kind of stood out to me. I don't know if it fits right now, or hey, you're sitting there and you're expected for these running backs to take on linebackers. I can tell you this: when it comes to the hash deal, people don't understand how big of a difference that is. I know you're talking about the special teams part of the game, and it really is, but really also from a divider standpoint, but also from an offensive standpoint of you look at stuff that's being run from the college hash marks, and obviously the NFL is a lot different. But from the college hash marks, just the difference, 2 yards, for either side of the hashes makes a big difference in a lot of stuff that you're running. So a lot of guys sit there and try to implement things, from the college level and try to bring that into the high school level. And there's a lot of adjustments that have to be made because of that. So that's really intriguing that you brought that up. I really haven't heard a whole bunch of people talk about that besides you. But yeah, I think that's interesting because those guys are moving on to the next level, and I think it's a big deal, in order to prepare these guys for the college level. But the one that really stands out for me is I think tailbacks should be allowed to cut, especially like on blitz and linebackers, et cetera.
Yeah. And Coach, you're right about the hash marks, because everybody's in the hash mark defenses. They slide it to the field because they'll give you that 17 2/3 yard. Coach, one point of I had an offense coordinator at Tulane that I worked for. He was a pro guy for many, many years. And he told me this stat. He said, when the NFL moved their hashes in, which they're right on the uprights now, he said before they moved them in, they had one guy over 1,000 yards in the whole NFL. He said as soon as they moved them in, there were eight 1,000-yard runners in the NFL. And I thought that made a big impact, exactly what you just alluded to about how it impacts the defenses. But, Coach, listen, we appreciate this so much. I know you got work to do. You got a big ball game this weekend. And before you leave, tell us a little bit about your matchup this weekend.
Tell you what, we're playing an extremely talented Holy Cross team. They're 6-0. From an offensive skill standpoint, they've got great. They've got a very good line. Been coached up very well by tight end coach and offensive line coach is very good line with really good really really athletic backs, and then they have 4 outstanding receivers. Everybody talks about 2 of them. One is is just an extremely polished receiver. The other one is a polished receiver with world-class speed. I think he's a 10-500 guy. And then the other, like a lot of people leave out the other two guys, man. They've got a whole bunch of weapons. I know Coach Andry, is excited to go into work every weekend with the weapons that he has. And then Coach Connors does a great job on defense. With his guys flying around, they call us havoc. They really fly the football. Coach Watney's done a great job assembling his staff. And they're 6, and it shows they're 6-0. They beat some really great teams. They beat this Curtis team. They've won 6 games. So look, we're excited about the opportunity. Everybody's talking about how everybody's has been speaking very highly of them. You see, and then when you see them on film, everything they've had to say, it's backed up on film. So we're excited about the opportunity. We're just a measly old 4-2 team looking for a great opportunity to play a 6-0 team.
Coach, you talked about the process. I mean, you guys have been there in big ball games, and you got some pretty good players yourself. I'm always impressed with your line and your quarterback play. You guys do a super job. Like every big game, it comes down to taking care of the football. But yep. Coach, anything else you'd like to add before we turn?
No, Coach. Hey, listen, I appreciate you having me on. It's anytime you call anything you ask, Coach. Hey, I'm in 100%.
But just remember what I said today, Coach. I just need a good exacta to get out of the hole.
Hey, Coach. Hey, if I can do it, I'll definitely get that to you.
All right, Coach. Thank you so much. Please come to the white for me.
Thank y'all so much.
We want to once again thank head coach Mark Bonis for joining us on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. And we'd also like to thank LSR for being a sponsor of our show. LSR produces Southern Cane Pure Cane Sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Ross's supermarkets. Samuel Accardo Jr. and Henri P. Dufresne, your go-to River Parish lawyers. Experience, tenacity, and results. Sammy Accardo and Henri Dufresne provide comprehensive legal services in personal injury, hurricane claims, business litigation, successions, and estate planning. Our trial experience, know-how, and commitment to protect and serve our clients is unparalleled. We provide complete real estate, title, and escrow services through our affiliate, State Title LLC. The River Parishes is our home, and serving our communities is our passion. Based out of Gramercy, Louisiana, LSR produces Southern Cane Pure Cane Sugar, which is only grown, refined, and packaged in Louisiana. LSR utilizes the latest innovations in technology, as well as ensuring the growth and stability of Louisiana's sugarcane farmers by integrating more than 800 growers in the industry's economic structure. Southern Cane is available in your local Associated Grocers and Rouse's supermarkets.
Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. Our goal has been to establish a strong relationship and partnership between you, the insurance company, and our agency, creating a circle of success that prepares for disasters before they actually happen.
Welcome back to our Let's Be Frank segment on the Let's Be Frank video podcast. We want to thank Riverlands Insurance for being a sponsor for our show. Since 1972, Riverlands Insurance Services has been dedicated to securing the best insurance products and services available to protect you, your family, your assets, and your business. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our Let's Be Frank segment presented by ULCS. And today, Coach, you wanted to talk about special teams emphasis.
Jason, there's something that's really been bugging me. I've been watching some football from now since I've been retired a little bit more than I should, with high school, college, and even the pros level. But I watched a I witnessed a ball game the other night, and I just saw no emphasis whatsoever on special teams, and it drove me crazy. But it all starts. Let me tell you a little bit about special teams. It all starts with the head coach. If he doesn't want you to practice, if he doesn't give you the time to practice, it doesn't do you any good. It starts with the head coach, and he has to give you time, and plus he has to give you the best players. It just can't make it a JV team, or it won't work out. I saw a team the other night; they couldn't even snap the ball to the punter. And all you ask is special teams. It's more than just the kicker, the snapper, the punter. It's the teams themselves, making sure they got a decent scheme to have success. And what that does is you take some of those same terms that you use in special team, and that carries over to offense and defense. Let me give you a couple of those that I've used over the years. One of the terms I've used is zero read. So what in the world is a zero read? That means when you don't know where the ball is, you just try to stay in the middle of a blocker until you find the ball. Then you button separate and you get rid of him. Or split double teams. That means that if they're trading 2 for 1, you want to split a double team. It's okay to take the double team up, because then all of a sudden that creates a free hitter. And other things, hands above the eyes. When I make contact with you, I want to roll my hands up, and it's kind of like I call it the garbage truck syndrome, where you kind of lift the guy up and you start from low to high, hands above the eyes. Don't widen your feet. That's one thing we always told our returner. That means don't chop your feet. Don't chop your feet in the middle as a returner. You make full speed moves. One of my big pet peeves, I told the guys, whenever you get below the numbers, you never chop your feet. You make full speed moves when you get below the number, or you're going to get blown up, because the pursuit's going to get you. One of my biggest, and this is something I've always carried, and the kids will walk down the hall and they were talking about high screen. So what exactly is the high screen? It's a way that you don't you actually put your chest on the guy, but you don't clip him. Clipping means you don't block him from behind. That draws a 15-yard penalty and calls back. I mean, big returns and punt returns and kickoff returns have you seen over the years because somebody hit a guy from the back? So those things need to be practiced and taught. And my favorite is give a guy a butt to run behind. You say, what in the world is a butt to run behind? That means if you see the angle of a guy blocking and you see is behind there, you cut off that behind. That means that you're always between the blocker and the defender. That's what that term means. So all those things that carries over to the special team. But I just think that there needs to be more emphasis. I see too many people not work on special team. Some of them would say, well, I play a Friday night game, we're going to work on it on Thursday. Now, I believe that you always incorporate those K periods. I call them the K periods at practice every day, and everything stops. Everything stops. The whole team participates in it. Even the offensive linemen are not allowed to go work on their steps over there. They come there. Maybe they can hold the bags, but I want the whole team to understand the importance of what special teams are all about. It's hard to find on a team a good kickoff return guy. I don't understand, for instance, I see teams out there that don't have a good punt return guy. A guy's just going to catch it. So that means that they're not getting those hidden yards. They're not putting the emphasis on return, either the kickoff or the return. So you're playing on the long field if that's the case, and your drive start average would be a lot longer. And you go look over the season, and you're going to see if my drive start average is maybe from the 30-yard line, or is it from the 20 or 25-yard line. Bobby Bowden came up with a stat years ago, and he said, if you start from the 20-yard line, your chances of scoring are 30-1, scoring a touchdown. Scoring are 30-1. I don't know if that, with the spread offense, if that's changed any. But how about snappers? You can't find snappers anymore. What's going on with that? What I used to do is train my backup quarterback to be a deep snapper, because the motion with the quarterback is very, very similar. And even though he's throwing the ball between his legs, it's very similar to the quarterback. I had one years ago from Jesuit High School, and he was a backup quarterback for me at Jesuit High School. And when he went to LSU, he ended up being the starting deep snapper for 3 whole years and earning a scholarship and that's what he did for 3 whole years. And their prices of them. And you say, okay, what about the time? Anybody really know what the time is? Yeah. For a punter, a good punter at 14 yards, if he's 14 yards deep, he should get the ball off at 2.2. Extra point field goal guy, if he's at 7 yards, he should get the ball off at 1.2. And the guys time that. And if anything more than that, they might be very, very susceptible to a block. And that's what you assign one coach every ball game just to check that out. But, I see kickoff return units, for instance, have no plan. They don't block anybody. They got the guy back there returning the kickoff, but nobody blocks. There's no plan for him. I said, what goes on? What do you think happens? Too many coaches, especially in the high school, are what they're doing. They're worried about the special teams is just a transition from offense to defense or defense to offense. And that's totally wrong. It needs to be a play like anything else. where you can make a play. Maybe you can block a punt. There's a statistics out that said that if you block a punt, you have 80% chance in the game that you probably have won. If you block a punt. But I see so much of that, the emphasis is not there. So, but that has to be taught. That has to be taught in practice. You just don't say go out there and block it. But all those hidden yards are just embarrassing to see people. The people not very good at special teams. The pros do a phenomenal job of it. The pros, you can really see the coaching in it. You can see the guy working on schemes, and they do a great job of it, even though I know they're getting paid. But, for instance, I don't understand how can you put a staff together and not have a true special team guy. I do know when the Saints were really good, they had a guy by the name of Greg McMahon, who was one of the best special team guys in the country. Then he's at LSU. They win a national championship. He's one of the best special team guys at Tulane University. They had a lot of time to talk with him, look at it, been in a number of his clinics. And I mean, but those kind of guys are rare. But why doesn't every school have a Greg McMahon type of guy that can handle the special teams and do that? I think it's so important. I'm watching the LSU game the other day, and there's a guy that balls on the 12-yard line. All of a sudden, LSU has the ball on their own 8. So the punt, because the punt returner didn't field the ball, and so I mean, there's no reason for a Division I school not to have that can sign 85 guys and maybe walk on, not to have a guy that can catch punch and kickoff returns and be effective at it, because those hidden yards are very special. The guy from Texas A&M, he's electric when he catches a punt, and everybody worries about him. I remember Terrell Buckley when he played for Florida State. I had to coach against that guy. Deion Sanders, the punt returners when they were at Florida State. I mean, you had to work extremely, extremely hard on punt and kickoff coverage when you played those kind of guys. So I don't understand why Coach don't put more emphasis. I watched the Alabama game against Texas A&M. A blocked field goal ended up being a scoop and score, put Alabama ahead to stay for the rest of the ball game. So the bottom line, what I'm trying to say is that there needs to be more emphasis on the special teams because they can turn the game around. They're big momentum plays, but yet a lot of people that think as well, it's just what I do to go to the next offense or next defensive play.
Thanks, Coach. And let's go ahead and take a look at our next topic in our Blitz the Ball Coach segment. And today's question is, could Dick Butkus play in today's game?
Coach, a guy asked me this because, unfortunately, and we'll pray for him and his family. Dick Butkus passed away this week. And if you looked at any of the highlights, when I was coming up, this guy, I played linebacker when I was in high school too, and a guard worked both ways. But I'd love to play linebacker. But just the fact that what he did, when he grabbed it, he would body slam you to the ground. And I wonder if today, could he play one? Could he play a Mike linebacker and cover backs out of the backfield and stuff like that? And could he cover them, man coverage, which a lot of them has to do nowadays? Two, but could he play and not get kicked out of the game? That's the number one thing, because he would take in body slam you. He tried to hurt you. When he hit you, you always went backwards. If you go back and look at all the clips on him, if he got to you, you always went backwards. And he never tackled you low. He was always up high. It hit you up in the pads. He never hit you low. So he would body slam, and your feet would leave off the ground. The first thing they hit was probably the back of your head. So could he play nowadays? One, he could play, but he wouldn't last long. He'd be kicked out of a lot of the games and with a helmet contact or personal fouls or something. But he was a pleasure to watch, and back in those days, you had the Ray Nitschke's, you had the Dick Butkus's, and Mike Singletary's. I mean, Jack Lambert. You just had some ferocious linebackers that would try to tear your ears off. But that was part of the game. So the question is, yes, he could play, but how long he could last and could he cover people out of backfield? I don't think they cared. He was going to be a Mike linebacker, and he was going to control that line of scrimmage.
And let's go ahead and move on to our final segment, which is the lock of the week. I failed miserably a week ago. I took Kentucky, which seemed like a good bet at the time. Who did you took, Coach?
I took Iowa.
Yeah.
Maybe you were ragging on me about Iowa, but
not necessarily ragging on you.
But they beat the spread.
Well, Coach, my thing was, can they score any points at all? So again, it ended up being a good pick for you. You've done really well this season. Who you like this week?
Coach, I'm going to go with what I said earlier. I like Washington, and I think they're about a 1.5 underdog or maybe 2 points, but they're playing at home. And I think this is going to be for all the marbles. This team, this could really put the winner of this game could really catapult themselves into the top 4.
And I'm going to go ahead and go with the team I've been picking a ton is Colorado, 10.5 against Stanford. Stanford is not a very good ball club this year. I like Colorado to cover and cover big in that matchup. But that'll do it for today's show. Let's go ahead and take a look at our social media. And remember, you can catch clips, highlights, and also some specific social media content. You can catch us on Facebook at the Let's Be Frank Video Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at the LBF Podcast. And don't forget, if you can't watch on VSN, you can always listen in on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. So before we get out of here, Coach, who do we have for next week?
I got Ryan Perilou. Ryan Perilou, quarterback at the LSU, East St. John, and will be inducted in the LHSAA Hall of Fame. Great.
And we're going to go ahead and get out of here. So for Justin Thomas, for head coach Frank Monica, I am Jason Duhe. And remember, let's lay ball and let the good times roll.
Please pray for the people in Israel.